All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Don Bartusiak. I work for ExxonMobil Research and Engineering. The hat that I am wearing today for this session is as co-chair of the Open Process Automation Forum, which is the subject of this session. The speakers, our lineup of speakers today is going to be different from what's on the screen. So let me overview that. So Gene Tung and Darren Blue of Intel, are going to present our recently published business guide. Steve Bitar representing our technology working group where the technical standards are coming out. So that's something that Steve co-chairs with Jeff Harding of ABB. The speaker actually is going to be Dennis Brandel, and if I can use a cattle drive terminology, Dennis is like our ramrod. He just like moves the ball forward, okay? So we're going to fantastic talk from Dennis. And we're going to close with just a brief overview about the Open Group, who they are and how they work that Mike Hickey is going to do. Okay, so with that, let's get into my talk. Okay, as I said, I co-chair the Open Process Automation Forum with Trevor Cusworth of Schneider Electric. And the vision that we're working against, what's our ultimate goal, is to produce a standards-based, open, interoperable, and secure process automation architecture. That's what we're driving towards. But our actual mission is really about standards. And the verbs are active verbs: developing, publishing, and evolving realistic specifications, read standards, that will be supported by all of the stakeholders required in this business ecosystem for success. The guiding principles are to utilize existing and emerging standards as the first priority. So it's really about creating a standard of standards. Now we are finding in practice there are some what we call white space areas where no applicable standards exist. So when that happens, we will work with the standards development organizations then to create the standards. And something that's very unique in standards process, which is the way that the Open Group works, is that the activity addresses both the technical and the business factors required for success. And you'll see that as we tell our story. I'm going to use this slide twice, and I just wanted to say who we are very, very briefly at the where the action is. So the action is in the working groups and the subcommittees spawned off of them. So we have a business working group that is chaired by Dennis Stevens of Lockheed Martin and Paul Berlowitz. We have the technical working group. Again, this is Steve Bitar and Jeff Harding of ABB. The Enterprise Architecture Working Group, I won't elaborate on what that means, is chaired by Eric Bush, recently retired from Shell, now working for himself in Avistar Consulting, and Dave Emerson of Yokogawa. And the interface with other standards organizations is co-chaired by Dennis Brandel and Firas Khalil of Siemens. Okay, this is a flat pattern recognition. This is the logos of the member companies on the forum. I'm just going to flash this by, so I want you to just pattern recognize this. I'm also going to put up the list that was in Kenny Warren's talk on Tuesday. And so we have 76 members by the count that Ed Harrington, who's our Open Group director for this activity, including 18 operating companies and the balance are suppliers, integrators, and other firms. I want to take this opportunity to welcome our newest members, and that would be Statoil, and I know Snorre is here, SABIC, I don't think there's anybody from SABIC here, Reliance, I know Ballard, we have a couple of Reliance people here, and ConocoPhillips, Tegan and Leo are here, so welcome to the team. Okay, this is coming to the business framework and the business ecosystem. This is a decomposition of the stakeholders that were and very key to how we wrote the business guide. We address what's in it for each of the stakeholder groups, and we've defined 6 stakeholder categories: end users, hardware suppliers, software suppliers, subsystems integrators, systems integrators, and service suppliers. So in our business guide, in the business framework and our business thinking, we're trying to address the ecosystem represented by this group of stakeholders and these interactions and relationships required to deliver a working system. I'm not going to go into the details here because this is central to the business guide that Gene and Darren are going to talk about, but the point of this chart is this articulation of benefits mechanisms was a consensus activity of a subcommittee, both of end users and suppliers. So we really worked hard on these words, and we believe them, okay? So we're trying to find what is the winning proposition, whether you're on the buy side or on the sell side. Again, Gene and Darren are going to elaborate on this. And coming back to this slide, I want to highlight now the activities of the subcommittees down here. So the business guide is finished. The business working group is pushing into the next 2 areas. We're just starting work on the standards conformance certification process, and we're also working on a contract guide to provide some structure to the procurement activities as they will take place in this envisioned ecosystem. We've spun up 7 technical subcommittees that are listed here. And there's too many names to mention and cite. I would cite Dennis Brandel really as the ramrod driving all of this stuff. But a lot of serious work being done right now, and what we're going to be doing during the members' meeting later today and tomorrow is the actual sausage making of standards by these folks. Okay, finally, I've got a few more slides. This is what we call our roadmap, which is a list of the deliverables that we're committing to and the schedule we're trying to meet. So I'm pleased to report that the business guide was published on January 22nd. Next up, a requirements white paper, and probably the big news here is what we call the snapshot, which is going to be the first preliminary release of the technical standards. Okay, that we're trying to get out in the second quarter. I guess to be a little bit more precise, I'm shooting for May. Okay, I'm not going to say anything precise about this chart. The point that I want to make with this chart is we really are trying to run this like a project. So Juan Aparicio of Siemens helps us with this. He works with all of the subcommittees. We put together a master plan and a schedule, show on a forward-looking calendar where the key milestone dates are, identify the dependencies among the subcommittees, try to identify critical path activities. So we're really trying to run this like a project. And so I put this chart up. This is my next to last chart. My last chart is a call for action. The point I want to make with this chart is I'm really reaching out, particularly to the end user companies. We really want this activity to be driven by an articulation of the business needs, okay? It's the what we want, okay? What we want. The how is not part of the forum, okay? This is a standard setting activity. We're not building a system. And I try to enforce where that boundary is between specifying standards and building a system. And we have some kind of a feedback, self-policing mechanism that we're trying to implement to stay on the right side of that line. But the point I want to emphasize here, particularly for the end user companies, is you should not feel intimidated sometimes when you get into these subcommittee meetings with the technical experts who are getting into the guts and details of stuff. The point is, and a key for success, you know, I should have answered that question from Eric Byers the other day about the field bus wars. You know, the end users got to stay engaged. Okay, we need the end users to really be driving this, and this is the way to get your voice heard for the end users. So the final slide is a call for action. And even though we're really pleased that we have 76 member companies, we need more. We're underrepresented on the buy side. And in particular, we need more end users to join. So this is the call to action, which is really to join this forum, get your voice heard, get your needs known, and that's what this is about from my perspective. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Gene and Darren, who are going to talk about the business guide. Oh, you know what? While we're making this transition, I forgot to highlight something. Alan, can you go back? Sorry, I'm sorry, guys. I want to highlight on the membership. I do want to highlight, if the slide's not that important. We also have liaison relationships with a number of organizations. I just want to, in place and in progress. Right. We also have formal liaison relationships with CISA, the CSIA, Control Systems Integrators, Industrial Internet Consortium, IIC, and a mining group, GMSG. And we are working on formal liaison agreements with ISA, NAMUR, and ZVEI. And these liaison relationships allow us to share work products in progress and documents and standards of that nature. So these liaison relationships are also important. So with that, without any further ado, I'll put Gene and Darren on.